and a lifelong bond. Hobbyspeed.com.
Indiana in the Morning, presented by First Commonwealth Bank on WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, WCCSradio.com, and it is 8:12 in the morning. And our interview at this time brought to you by Marcus & Mack, voted best personal injury law firm in the Best of Indiana County Complex. Marcus & Mack law firm representing injured people. And our interviews are also being streamed this morning on Facebook. So on Facebook Live, and joining us in studio here is Indiana County District Attorney Robert Manzi. And Robert, it's good to have you back on the show with us.
Morning, Josh. Always good to be here.
All right. So first thing, I think a lot of people have been very curious about any updates or any information concerning the investigation into the shooting at the Chevy Chase Community Center. Of course, that happening back in October during the homecoming weekend, and one person dead, others injured, and it just seems like the investigation has not released a lot of information. Now, that's understandable because it's still going on, and even though we may not be hearing anything, it's still moving along, right?
It is still very much moving along. We still have dedicated troopers to this investigation. We're working with experts from around the state and around the country. One of the main hindrances of any investigation is when you have a number of eyewitnesses to the incident that happened with no video. Mm-hmm. And what we're finding is a lot of witnesses are unable or unwilling to provide information. So what we're doing is utilizing various investigative techniques to try to determine what we can. And eventually, if necessary, we'll get to a point where we force testimony.
One of the rumors that we have heard about this investigation were that the victims were only two shooters, but even at this point, something like that, can it be confirmed at all?
I can confirm that there's multiple shooters. It's more than two.
Okay.
And that's really one of the problems, and I completely understand frustration with an arrest not happening within hours. Unfortunately, we're going to do the investigation correct and make sure we have admissible evidence in the court. What I can tell you is we do have several people of interest. We're going to continue following up on every lead to obtain the necessary evidence to hold them accountable.
One of the phrases that comes to mind is you're going slow to go fast in this situation, but you're doing a very thorough investigation, and it's not one to grab headlines, it's one to grab a result in this case, and hopefully a conviction as well. But as you said, it's a tough slog when you don't have people who are willing to step forward and say, I saw this. Obviously, you're still looking for those people to maybe change their minds a little bit.
We're still working with people that we know were there. We're still looking for people who were there. What we've always, in talking with the community, we're asking them, if you hear anything, let us know, because a lot of times what happens is the individuals involved in this might think, hey, the heat's off and, I can start talking to people. Maybe you don't see what we're doing, but there is a lot of work still going into this case.
Mm-hmm. Still a lot of moving parts. Anybody who has information can probably contact state police, your office, anything like that.
They can contact my office. They can contact the state police. And a lot of what we've advised a lot of people is, there's ways to stay anonymous, to provide us the information necessary to point us in the right leads. But we're certainly asking for the help from the community and from the witnesses. The family of the decedent deserves justice.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Let's switch gears now. Yesterday, you released a statement concerning a recent sentencing on the case of, I believe it was Heidi Millar. Mm-hmm. Yesterday, actually Monday in court, she was sentenced to a lengthy prison term for charges of voluntary manslaughter, but a charge of death due to drug purchases. I guess that's the layman's term I can put it to it. Mm-hmm. That was not prosecuted as part of that, but you still got the conviction in the prison time that I think was necessary to kind of send the message out, right?
Yes. So defendant Millar was convicted of voluntary manslaughter as well as possession with the intent to deliver, which is the term for drug dealing. Mm-hmm. A charge of drug delivery resulting in death was null prost as part of the plea agreement.
That's what I was talking about, yeah. The drug delivery resulting in death.
Yeah. And she was sentenced to 3 to 6 years in jail. And again, drug delivery resulting in death, a lot of times what you're talking about, a case there is very few, if any, eyewitnesses, a lot of information coming from cell phone technology. people who are talking on cell phones using code words for drug dealing. So that case, we believe that was the best we could get in that case. We had a lot of conversation with the victim's family. They advised us that they were very happy that Millar was being convicted. And, at the end of the day, a lot of what we do really goes to closing a chapter for victims.
Yes.
Here we have parents who are able to say that the person that sold her the drugs is being held accountable, is going to prison, and it's going to bring them some peace. And you cannot place a value in peace for victims, especially parents that had that happen to their child.
Yeah, so it is a tough process, I think, also for the families to go through, having to relive this whole thing, having to have that tragedy in their life of having their loved ones who were taken from them, having that tragedy reopened again and again during trial. So with the result that came out of that ends this process for them. And also, as I mentioned, it does send a message out to other people who might be even considering going into the drug trade. The word is don't.
Don't. I mean, I don't know how much clearer we're going to be that we're going to aggressively prosecute drug deliveries. We've utilized federal authorities, state authorities, local authorities. Our drug task force, I always tell people, you should be concerned when you don't hear too much because something big's coming. And we're going after drug dealers, and they know it. The fact is over this past year, we have learned through our investigations at least 3 larger scale drug dealers leaving town and specifically telling people, I'm leaving Indiana County because it's hot.
Yeah.
They know that we're coming after them. And, I prefer people stop dealing drugs. And if you're not going to stop dealing drugs, you better get out of Indiana County.
Well, that's the second best result there, leaving the county. Getting out of the town, so to speak. Yeah. And as you said, the best result is not even to start in this whole process because we know where that road often leads. Yeah. Are there any other major cases that the DA's office is working on at this point?
We always have a lot of major cases that we're working. I think you'll see some things coming out over the next week or so. One of the big things that I really want to emphasize to the people in our community, and we just talked about drug dealers and how they need to be in state prison.
Yeah.
One of the big things I also want to emphasize just as loudly, just as strongly, it's the holiday season. There's Christmas parties. There's holiday parties.
Yeah.
People are out having a drink or two with their friends. Please, please, please find a sober driver.
Yeah.
Make plans. The last thing, I would prefer less cases. I prefer less crime. I don't want to have to deal with people getting arrested for DUIs. Mm-hmm. And I always tell people, I'm showing my cards because I don't want you to drink and drive. We have heightened patrols. We have more cops on the road looking for DUIs. Please don't ruin your holiday season. Don't ruin someone else's holiday season. Find a driver. Find a safe way to get home.
Yeah, I know we're going to be seeing those beefed up patrols Christmas and New Year's. And I often like to say that if people do plan on celebrating, as you said, find a safe way home, designate a driver, get an Uber, take a bus, whatever, because that's the type of story I don't want to report on the next morning.
Absolutely not. The holiday seasons, it's a great time. We start to relax a little bit and spend time with family and friends. Please be safe about it because there's so many bad ways that can turn out. And I'm showing my cards. I'm not, we're not hiding in trees. I'm telling you, there's more police out there. And if that has to be your motivation, that has to be your motivation. Do it for yourself. Do it for your safety, the safety of the other motorists. Please find a safe way to be home.
As we said, state police are going to be out, probably local police as well. This is probably, is this part of some coordinated program then that the DA's office is running, or is this just a standard operating procedure at this point?
It's standard operating procedure. When we know that people are, there's times of the years that people tend to be out, and it tend to be parties like this. You're looking at the 4th of July, you're looking at Thanksgiving, you're looking at the holidays. Just find a safe way to be home. If you got to sleep on a friend's couch, there's a lot worse things in life that could happen.
Yeah, definitely. Anything else that you wanted to make mention, Bob?
I also wanted to talk about not only just that, but, drug and alcohol treatment. We announced our LETI program this year. And I always want to reintroduce that program to people. And we talk about drug dealers needing to be in state prison, but people who are using drugs and coping with addiction, there are so many great programs out there to help. If you need help, if your loved one needs help, call our office. Call your local police department. Call the Drug and Alcohol Commission. Again, I would prefer you get help and you face that addiction and you get past it and you just get a chance to live a better life. That's the news I love to hear.
Yeah. You actually sparked something else in me, Veterans Court, because we know that through Veterans Court, a lot of veterans who maybe have fallen into drugs or alcohol or other problems in life, they're getting the rehabilitation they need. How's Veterans Court going?
Veterans Court is going great. We have two specialty courts here. We have Veterans Court and then we have Drug Court. Mm-hmm. They are both going fantastic. Our courts and our teams on both of those programs provide such great services. We always talk about the adversarial system in court, and we go into court and attorneys are battling each other in court.
Yeah.
But one of the best part is when we sit in Veterans Court and when we sit in Drug Court, and we're all working, and we're seeing somebody who has been in front of a judge for 10 years, this case, that case, dealing with problems.
Yeah. And
they're working, and they're sober, and they've been sober for a year, and they have plans, and you start to see a smile on their face, and you really see the people taking advantage of those programs. It's fantastic to see. Those are the things that we really want to see. And unfortunately, if you're not in a space to be there, or if you're one of these for-profit predator drug dealers, we got a space for you. But, man, I love seeing the graduations there where people are moving forward in life in a great way.
Have there been any graduations recently?
I believe we've had them over the last 6 months.
Okay, all right, that's
I think
fine.
we have some coming up, but they're fantastic to see people who have been struggling, and they finally get to the spot where they're ready to accept help. Mm-hmm. All of the services are there, and I always tell people if you don't think they work, come and talk to some of them, and they'll tell you, man, it's really neat to see somebody who's been in that revolving door of jail and rehabs and they're talking about what they're going to do in life, and they're at a job for a year, and they're getting promoted, and it's really heartwarming to see people face their demons, get rid of their demons, and move forward in a positive way.
All right. Robert Manzi, thank you very much for joining us. We're just about out of time, but thanks again for coming by. If I don't see you, you have a wonderful holiday, okay?
You as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Robert Manzi, Indiana County District Attorney, joining us on Indiana in the Morning, presented by First Commonwealth Bank. And our interview segments brought to you by Marcus & Mack, voted Best Personal Injury Law Firm, Best of Indiana County Contest. Marcus & Mack, law firm representing injured people. 8:24. We are a minute away from the CBS Sports Minute. And then at 8:30, we'll have the check of the latest local news headlines. As we've been mentioning all morning, the negotiations will continue between PASHE and AFSCUF. And we also have word on a ribbon-cutting ceremony that's taking place later today in Dixonville. That's some good news there. And we'll also have the latest on sports, of course, as we heard in our last half hour, the long-form interview with Kevin Marabito, United Valley head coach, who has decided to retire after 40 years at the helm. And, of course, an Indiana County coaching icon, Julius Masurda, passing away recently. So we have some more reactions coming up on that. That's coming up in a few minutes here on Indiana in the Morning. But right now, let's get to it with the CBS Sports Minute.